Africa wants to deliver on the Green Climate Fund. They want to see it operationalized by next year. But the way things are going, we might end up with a fund without any money in it. Because of course countries here negotiating would always be acting on their national interests, and it's quite sad, but we see the probability of having a Green Climate Fund established on paper but doesn't actually do us any good.
One of the things that has struck me as a particularly perverse approach is this whole thing about tying up progress on the Green Climate Fund and on financing at large with the mitigation targets. I mean, that is literally saying that it's blackmail when it comes to that. It's like saying, you know, I'm not going to give money to the victims of climate change, although I am responsible for the harm that's being caused to them, until I get something else, which is not necessarily up to these vulnerable communities or countries to give into.
Sadly, what they're talking about here is putting money towards mitigation activities. That's a northern concern. For us in the south, we are drowning, we are getting hungry, our people are, you know, just trying to make do with very little each day. So what we urgently need is money that would provide actual and immediate relief, which is what we need at the most.
I think they have to think about how this population who are direct affected by climate change can have direct access to the fund for the action, not for the workshop or study.
They have to expand and broaden the agenda to include those sectors, those people's voices who contributed the least to the problem, but who are really feeling the brunt of the impacts.
Why they are putting just a woman like victim every time? They can put them like in the positive way too. Women can help a lot.
There has been some reference to gender concerns in the text itself, but we feel that it's not enough.
They've spoken about gender, but in fact I think the Climate Change Convention and the Kyoto Protocol have almost no language on gender, so to speak. So it's not been a top priority with the Global Environmental Facility. They haven't pushed it beyond just the rhetoric.
When the report says that the women are victims, it's taking away a lot of the empowerment context. But you know, women have been at the forefront of adapting to the impacts of climate change. So we're not just passive victims. We are actually adapting and developing community resilience.
If we take the case in Africa or in my community, it's the women who are going to take water, to have food, to cook. So it's the women who are 100% in contact with the environment, with all the resources, all the natural resources. So women know how it's changing. So she know how she can repair this.
And I think I'm doing this more as a personal thing, because I know that if the world's leaders don't get their acts together, my children and my children's children will suffer the impacts. I will not be here 30, 50 years from now, but it's the future generation whose lives are at stake the most.
I think developed countries have to realize that this is not a trading game, that this is responsibility, that they have caused harm, that they're liable to. So I mean, it is a liability that they have to pay off. So it's not, you know, the same old development aid game that they're playing here. And they have to get out of that mentality.
Having just for the politicians of saying, yes, we have adaptation fund, we have a green fund, so tomorrow we're going to create a blue fund and a yellow fund, I don't know. You know, it's not the term which is important for us. It's the action. We need action.
There's a lobby, a huge lobby against seeing this fund operationalized. And we feel that, you know, the US is the perennial non-signer to Kyoto Protocol. Now it's the Green Climate Fund. So what next? You know, you're talking about concern for uplifting the poverty situation of the people. US, wake up, you know.